let's look at another example of how to multiply rational expressions. This problem is a little more involved because the polynomials are a little more involved in factoring, but it's not too bad if you take each polynomial separately and work each one, and then you will be able to do the problem pretty simple. So I want to focus on the trinomial on the upper right-hand corner because that is going to be the most difficult of the polynomials to factor. So we may as well just start with that one. I generally like to teach the AC method when the coefficients are relatively small. And generally most of them are like that anyway. So if you look at the A coefficient, the A coefficient is 2, and then the C coefficient is 15. Well, the AC method requires you multiply those two coefficients, hence the AC method. So the A coefficient of 2 multiplied by the C coefficient of 15 will give me 30, okay? And we're going to need to write down all the factors of 30. So when we do that, okay, you have 1 and 30, and you have 2 and 15, and then you have 3 and 10, okay, and then you have 5 and 6. That should be multiplied. These should be multiplied together. 5 times 6 gives me 30, okay? And we want all the factors that could give me 30. So if you want a methodical method of doing this, you can do the AC method and do it like I'm showing you here. And when you become more fluent in factoring, you can apply the trial and error, which is a little easier. In some cases, when the coefficients are relatively small, the trial and error method is very efficient. Not so efficient when the coefficients are large. That's just my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and choose a combination that will give me the combination of 30. Now, what would be a good combination? That we can use in order to get 15. Okay, so, no, excuse me, 30. Okay, but we have to keep in mind that we have to get the middle coefficient of 7. So when we do this, we have to figure out how are we going to come up with that. Well, the AC method, if you write down the first term, leave some space and write down the last term, let's choose a combination that we think will give us 7. Okay. So the combo that we're going to choose 3 and 10. Okay? Because we know 3 times 10 gives me the 30, and then we know that the difference of 3 and 10 give me the 7. We just need to figure out the signs. So go ahead and fill in 3 and 10, and let's go ahead and choose the signs. Okay? It would have to be a minus and a plus. That would be the only way to get a 7. And the variable is going to be a WP for both of those, okay? Because minus 3P plus 10P would be the only way to get a positive 7P in the middle, 7WP in the middle, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do factor by grouping. So we're essentially going to split these two groups. The group to the left, we take out a GCF, and the group to the right, we also take out a GCF. And that's going to be W, because that's the only thing in common that we can factor out. And then we're going to get 2W minus 3P. And then the GCF on the right would be a 5 plus 5. And P would be common in both of those. So again, that's going to give me 2W minus 3P. And this and this go in their own set of parentheses. So W plus 5p. And then since 2w minus 3p are identical, just choose one of them to represent the group. And these would be my two factors, w plus 5p and 2w minus 3p. Again, trial and error would be a little more efficient because you can break down 2w squared as 2w times w, and then 15p squared you can break down as 3 times 5, right? Gives you the 15, and then p times p give you the p squared. So you just have to realize that we have to get a plus 7p. So when you have a plus and a minus, you will have a plus and a minus in your two factors. So when you FOIL this out, you should get that trinomial back. Again, there are many ways you can factor trinomials. I will spend more time factoring trinomials in a later video. But having the knowledge of factoring is super important when you do these problems, because it's going to require a lot of factoring most of the time. Okay, so we are going to replace the upper right hand corner, or the upper right hand fraction, with w plus 5p, and then 2w minus 3p. And the bottom right fraction, since we're working on this right side, we can factor out a GCF of 3, because that's the biggest number that will divide into 3 and 9. And then the w plus 3p will remain in the parentheses. Okay? So 3 times w gives me 3w, 3 times 3p gives you a 9p. So you can kind of double check to make sure you're getting that original polynomial back if you're having second thoughts and whether you factored the correct GCF or not. And then the left fraction, okay, since both of these are binomials, we'll start with the upper left. Again, the GCF that we can take out would be 4, and then w minus 5p would be left behind, okay? And then the bottom, we can take out a 2, and then you're going to be left with w squared minus 25p squared. Okay, so we want to factor out a GCF of 2 because 2 is the largest number that goes into 2 and 50 evenly. And then this needs to be factored again because that's called the difference of two perfect squares. So we have 4. Okay, I'm just rewriting the fraction here. Okay, and we're going to factor that as the difference of two perfect squares. So w times w gives me w squared, and then of course we have 5p times 5p gives me 25p squared. One has to be minus, one has to be plus, and then everything else is factored. So I'm just rewriting it. And then now we cancel like terms, like factors, okay? So looks like I can cancel quite a bit here. W minus 5p, w minus 5p. I can cancel w plus 5p, w plus 5p. I can also cancel a 2 and the 4. That reduces to 2. Okay, and we are left with 2, because here's the 2, times 2w minus 3p all over, and then 3 times w plus 3p. And there you have it. Quite a lengthy problem, but It would go a little bit faster if you do the trial and error, but I wanted to show people that if you're struggling with trial and error, sometimes people can't mentally picture the numbers well in their head. Use the AC method because it's a little bit more methodical. You just have to be really comfortable finding the GCF and understand that concept of taking the GCF and factor by grouping. So you have to have a lot of prior knowledge with factoring before attempting these problems. In my opinion, it'll be a little bit easier. Again, I'll show you other videos with factor by grouping and factoring trinomials a little bit later. I hope this helps.